to offer this time that you talk about improv and the applications of improv to your real life and everyday work. So thank you, Andy Crouch.
Can I get everybody to just stand up with your coffee? Really easy, very low pressure. This is not going to be hard. Stand up with your coffee and find a table somewhere close to me with people that you don't normally work with. So people that are not in your group, people you don't know very well, people that look dangerous and scary, alarming. You probably can't trust them, but you might be able to sit at a table with them. Beautiful. Everybody at your table, just kind of introduce yourselves to each other. Say hello. I'm Andy. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Andy, I'm
Robin.
Robin.
Cheer.
Tim.
Tim. Nice to meet you, Tim. Can you guys keep that for a second? Awesome. Don't let it hit the ground. I'm Andy. I do improv. I teach improv. I work with adults. I work with companies. We go around and we use the fundamental tenets of improv, which we use to train to do the kinds of theater that we do, to teach adults how to have a little bit more fun, how to relax a little bit, to get more comfortable in front of each other, and to teach companies how to get a little bit more efficient and have a little bit more fun as well at the same time. So I want to keep messing around and then talking and then messing around a little bit and then talking more. So at your group, at your table, can you guys really quickly check in about what you did over spring break? Just the two-word executive summary. Just give them your, you did South by, you saw lots of movies, you went to Key West, amongst yourselves. Excellent. Can you guys really quickly share your childhood pet, the pet that you had when you were a kid, and if you didn't have one, lie a little bit, just so that you can say you had a childhood pet, because it's sad otherwise. Childhood pets, check in with the people at your table. And I don't know if everybody's gone yet, but that's okay. Last thing, you've all brought something here for the table. You're about to pull it out and share it. It's imaginary, it's not real. It is illegal though. So you brought something slightly illegal and you're gonna share it with the group, put it on the table, be cool about it. We don't wanna get in trouble. One at a time, really quickly around the circle. So I would be like, I have a little heroin. Nobody'd use it, but it's here. It's here. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. So you've brought something illegal. You're going to put it on the table. Go for it. Cuban cigars for you guys. Cuban cigars. And that's it. You guys are amazing. That sounded like brilliant illegal gifts. There's some basic rules of improv. There are rules that make improv work really, really well pretty quickly. One of them is have fun. It's rule number one. It's the rule we always go by. It's the rule where if you realize you're not having fun, you want to readjust everything else and try to recalibrate so that you're having fun again. And there was a little bit of laughing going on as you guys brought things out and said illegal things, and everybody's like, oh. So we have achieved just a little bit of having fun. Rule number one is in place. And once we have that, we can do anything else because we're a little bit more open, we're a little bit more receptive, and now we can start to worry about the other stuff. We can start to worry about how not to live with that internal voice that's constantly saying, whatever you do needs to be this way, and you should worry about X, Y, and Z. And it probably ought to be a little bit entertaining or funny or appropriate or smart or relevant. There's all these things that we think we should be. And if we worry too much about being those things, we're not really going to do much of anything because we're not going to put ourselves out there. And we're not going to learn anything because we're only operating within kind of the confines of what we're comfortable with. So turn to just one of the people at your table, and back and forth, you're just going to give nice little gifts. Not illegal, just any kind of gift. So with one of the people at your table, you'll just pass them something. You'll say, it's a bunch of sand. And they'll just be, cool. And then you'll pass something to me. What do you got?
I got the ultimate gift, peanut butter.
Peanut butter, brilliant. And then I'll pull something out and say, it's a wand. And she'll say, thank you. Yeah. With someone at your table, just give a couple gifts back and forth. I got you a cigarette lighter. I don't know if you smoke. And you guys are all now professional improvisers. You're qualified to get up on stage. We won't force you to do that right now. Yeah, so if we're having fun as our baseline, I think the next rule, the next thing that we say is be more boring. Get out of your own way. Be more obvious. Don't worry about all the things that you think you should be. Don't worry about these voices worrying and stressing and creating anxiety. Gently start to let go of them and just do the next thing that happens. And while that might sound like a really bad idea, it generally works out. Whatever the next thing is will almost make sense. And if it doesn't, you'll say something else that does make sense. And you'll keep going, and you'll mess up every once in a while. But because you've been trained to have fun, you make it work, and you enjoy the process. When you say something genius, when you give a gift that everybody's like, oh, that's really smart, you'll be like, yeah. And everybody's like, he's a genius. And when you mess up and you give something and you're like, oh, that's terrible, and you laugh, everybody's like, oh, she seems untouched by the fear and shame that I might feel normally in that circumstance. And once you've gotten to that point, you can start to really make stuff happen. And then all of a sudden you can start working together and saying obvious things back and forth nonstop until you've really created something, a comedy, a story, something that people will pay $10 to $15 to watch on stage on a Thursday through Sunday night at the Hideout Theater. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm on stage Friday at 8. So we start to work together, and that is our next rule. It's share control, collaborate, be affected by each other. Use the words yes, and then add to it. So if Jim gives me a gift of some kind,
Paper towels.
Paper towels, I'm gonna use them to wash my hands because I've got them covered in oatmeal and coffee right now. So I'm gonna add some kind of information about what he's given me, and then we can build it together over time. I tell you what, at your table, you guys are just gonna go around and you are going to build something together right here. Let's say that it is, this is gonna be the history of an Austin institution. What's an Austin institution? Broken Spoke, the Broken Spoke Country Bar. You're gonna build it around, doesn't matter if you know what it is or not. One person will say, the Broken Spoke was founded in 1865 by Stephen F. Austin himself. And the next person around the circle will say, yes, and Stephen F. Austin brought 3 covered wagons together, and everybody would dance in the middle while his wife played the fiddle. And the next person will say, yes, and the fiddle was made of gold. And the next person will say, yes, and they eventually had to sell the fiddle to make a much larger Broken Spoke, which is the one that we see now. And somebody else will say, yes, and Willie Nelson plays every day at the Broken Spoke. It doesn't matter if it's true, it doesn't matter if it's right, it doesn't matter if it's appropriate, it just matters that you guys add the next thing around. I've kind of blown through the Broken Spoke at this point. Can I get another Austin institution?
Barton Springs.
Barton Springs, yeah. Give us the history of Barton Springs. One person starts, one person starts, one person starts. And then around, just really quickly, use yes and to build it together. And hopefully those histories are close to complete. They all sounded really accurate from here. I'm actually pretty impressed. I'm hearing lots of laughing, which means that rule number 1 is being accomplished. Everybody's amusing each other to the point that it looks like you're having fun. It seems like people are willing to just say the next thing. Even if you take a moment where you're like, we just then say the obvious thing and we try to let go of worrying too much about it. And the more you do that, the more effortless it gets. And the faster you can go and the more you can make things happen. And this collaboration allows you to build something together that ultimately is going to surprise you guys because you're not in control. You can't control this experience because somebody else is going to take it and mess it up immediately. And by the time it gets back to you, you'll have to adapt to brand new circumstances. And I think that's maybe the ultimate really cool thing about improv that makes it unique as a performance art form and what makes it eminently applicable to any group of people trying to create in a collaborative way or make something excellent happen in a collaborative way is that you've got to learn to share that control efficiently, to enjoy yourself while you're doing it, and to make something happen without stressing too much about it. To accept that doing something is going to be a good enough start and then together we're going to make it a little bit better. In improv, we can get to the point where can I get you up here for a second, Tom? Tom is going to give me a brand new set of arms between my arms. So stick them right through there. So if Tom is doing this, I would say, well, I wonder what I'm going to do today. I think I've got an idea. Hey, you over there. Hey, you. You want to go hang out? You want to go hang out? Come here. Get over here. What? Hey, what's wrong? Hey, I'm mad. I'm so mad. You. It's you. You're coming here. Yeah, shake it off. Hey, All we have to do is collaborate back and forth. So if he does something, hopefully I react and say, what? And if I say, hey, you over there, he knows to point. And we're going to collaborate back and forth. We could get so smooth at that, we could tell like a 90-minute story as one person walking around doing stuff the entire time. And the audience, it would blow their minds. It would be like, how are they able to do that? When it's just one simple little trick, ultimately, of saying yes to what's already there and adding something on top of it. That's pretty much it. There are lots of other things that spin off of these fundamental ideas. Ways that we can use the tenets of improv, but it all really comes down to these 3 things. And I see adults come through the Hideout Theater for our classes that we teach, that Nicole can tell you about if you have any curiosity. Like a Monday night, we'll spend 3 hours with people that have decided that they're looking for something. They'd like to have a little bit more fun. They'd like to get a little bit more comfortable in groups. Or speaking in front of other people. They'd like to get a little bit more creative and have more options in whatever else they do, whether they're writers, whether they're filmmakers, whether they have some weird little hobby. This thing is going to be of use to them, and they don't even know it necessarily, except they've got some curiosity. They heard about an improv class, or they've seen it on TV, and they think it'd be fun to do. And I see people go through these classes for the last 10 years, and it changes their lives in all these weird little ways because these ideas are not just for performance. They're things that are going to make your life better. We should all be having more fun. We should all be willing to be a little bit more obvious in life and stress out a little bit less. And we should all be willing to work together and figure out the ways that that works best. That's going to make things more enjoyable across the board. In your work environment, in relationships, in any kind of thing with your kids. So we see people come through and it's transformative, and they quit their jobs and start new jobs. They start new relationships. They decide to pursue their hobby professionally. They do all of these things because they're empowered with this basic philosophy. We go into companies and we see teams of people light up because they don't know how to do these things, and work is possibly the most stressful place that we go because it's how we feed ourselves. And if we don't have that, then we're out in the cold, in a van, down by the river. So we tighten up a little bit, we worry about our performance, we worry about how we're being perceived by other people, and some of that's totally legit and warranted, but usually we take it way too far. And the thing that improv gives these teams is, oh, we can lighten up a little bit. We can pursue fun, even though it's work. We can try to make things enjoyable for ourselves and for each other. We can let go of that anxiety that we're holding on to, because even though we think it's helping us, though we think it's going to make us safe, we're trying to carve out safety, it really is just making us a little bit smaller and a little bit less active and a little bit less engaged and have a little bit less fun. And you see this transformation in groups and in companies, and they come back and they work with you again, and they're totally different. Or you hear reports about how they feel more productive and they're having more fun, and some of the personality disputes that had bubbled up because we're all a little bit calcified have diminished a little bit. And it's cool. And we like to do more of it. So we're always trying to reach out and find places that we can hit people with these ideas. And that's what I'm here doing with you guys. So we've had a few engagements, and we've talked with a few different groups, and we've done some improv, and it's been really cool. And we're going to do more, hopefully, over time. And I wanted to come talk to you about how I feel and think about it, and see if you had any questions, ultimately. So that is the end of me talking, and you raised your hands.
Yes, I can see how this works in a small group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the question is, this kind of thing, you can see how it works with small groups. It's easy to put you guys into little teamwork and then bring you back out of it to have some kind of call and response with you. You have to create really tight tools for managing the group. So at the beginning, if I'm working with a really huge group, I'll establish some basic ways. It's like the kindergartner teachers who are like, clap once if you can hear me, clap twice if you can hear me. Don't do that with adults, it makes them crazy. But you can find little tools and ways of saying, this is the cue, to bring it back pretty quickly so that we can keep going. Some people use like a little bell cue. Some people use a keyword cue. Some people, because they think it's actually more effective, even though it is a little bit of a time waster, because they don't want to dominate verbally, or they want to keep it more of an even thing, they'll walk around the entire space doing this. Until these guys all kind of quiet, and then eventually those guys are like, what's happening over there that everybody's quiet? And then everybody comes back and focuses again. One of the simplest, stupidest ones is to start getting these guys to clap a little bit. So if you guys start clapping, then everybody's like, wait, what? And then everybody's clapping. Everybody's clapping. And then after the clapping, they're back. Yeah. I think that gets at a larger question, which is, this stuff is good for managing groups like that. It's wonderful for workflow. It's huge for education. The workshops that we've been teaching so far have been in large part improv for presenters, because the tools that we use can be massive for giving some kind of group a more interactive experience. So instead of sit and get, which I learned yesterday, which sounds terrifying. Oh, and it makes me want to fall asleep like right now. You can create a more dynamic experience where they have a lot more options to interact. There's the basic just, hey, what do you think about that? Or what is your question, one-on-one? There's everybody respond, everybody hearing what I'm saying? Yeah. Awesome. You guys gonna give me money? No. So you can make that kind of large group experience happen. You can get them broken down into smaller groups. You can greet them on the way in and create some kind of mission for them that starts at the very beginning. Ask them to count the number of times that you say a certain thing, or create some little game that gets them to buy in just individually in their personal experience of the thing. And because we're looking for things that make it fun, because that's a priority for us, and I think sometimes people lose that priority when they feel like they have a job to do, because we're looking to make the most just kind of obvious, straightforward thing happen, and because we're looking to be affected by what you're bringing into the room, what any given group brings into a room, we're always looking to adapt and make it as ideal as possible. So if we follow those basic tenets, I think you can make a very cool thing happen presentation-wise. I'm a huge improv nerd. I fell in love with it. In 2001, I took a class and I was like, I lit up immediately. And the ideas, kind of the philosophical underpinnings, the psychology behind it, I found infinitely intriguing. I started reading everything I could find about it, taking all the classes I could get my hands on, sharing it with my friends that I thought would be interested in trying to make it happen in our community, like in our group of friends. And throughout that, I think I just kind of found a thing that I was going to keep doing for a really long time. And the two things that fascinate me most about it are the educational side of it, that it really can transform people and give them tools to make something better. So that's kind of the teacher side of me. I love teaching improv more than I like performing. Performing's great, it's necessary, it's a thing that has to happen to really be doing the work, but sharing it in a room of people and then seeing people say, I can just say yes as a default and things will be easier, and really start to value that is mind-blowing. And then the other side of things is putting it in groups where it's going to be effective for them as just like a team-building icebreaker thing, because it's fun. Because if you invite people to share these little managed risks, these little pressured situations where you would be like, oh, okay, all right, I'll try that. And then you do it and you surprise yourself and you're like, that wasn't so bad. That was kind of easy. And everybody laughs a little bit. Maybe you nail something and again, they're like, that was so smart. And you're like, I know. Or you totally screw something up and everybody laughs and you're like, oh, okay, I'm not dead. I think that is the other really cool thing that I love, is seeing improv just be a very healing, wholesome, fulfilling thing that groups can take. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions and misapprehensions about improv out there. So doing what I do, a lot of the conversations that I have are, so what exactly is it, and will we be made fun of? And you get the same from audience members who come and they're reluctant to sit in the front row because they think that you're going to call them out or get watermelon on them or something. I don't know exactly what they think is going to happen. But ultimately, it's just the process of reassuring them, no, all we're trying to do is create an incredibly low pressure situation for you to take risks and figure out that that's kind of okay and that that might actually be pretty valuable. Yeah, it's weird. We get all kinds of people that gravitate towards improv. And you might think that it would be a more limited range, but it really is. It's people that already think they're funny. And they're like, people say I'm funny. I'm going to take an improv class. I'm going to get up on stage and do that. We get people who are nervous speaking in front of groups, and they know that they need something. And this is either recommended to them, or they from the description, they're like, oh yeah, that sounds about right. We get people who are just a little bit shy in general and are looking to engage more and have more people experiences, meet new people and have a little bit of fun outside of their comfort zone because they live in a very small comfort zone. We get people who are coming from that type A place where they're like, I plan everything that I say ahead of time. I'm thinking about what the right way to do every single thing is. I need to knock myself out of that. I need to get back to that kind of that state that we all come from in the beginning, where you're playful and you're messing around and you're a kid and you don't care until somebody says something to you at some point that makes you reconsider all of that. And you're like, oh man, maybe I should really lock this down. I don't think I need to be less vulnerable. This is dangerous. The world is not a safe place. And we all develop coping strategies over time. And people often come to improv to shed some of those and try to let go of them, ultimately. Anybody have any other questions or testimonials? We like the testimonials.